So the red light means it's muted. This is the little white button. Of course, it's just magnet. All right, what's in there?
Mr. Alexander. Will you make sure all lights work?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got the microphone.
It's right here.
No?
As soon as we go, it's charged coming back.
Oh.
How are you? Touche.
We'd like to welcome everyone out to our board meeting this evening and for our truth and taxation hearing. But we will start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we've asked Superintendent Stevens to lead us in
Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You'll notice the agenda is posted on each side of the room, projected on each side of the room for your reference. And we will start this evening with our consent calendar. Board, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Moved by Doug. Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now we will move into our public hearing at this point. And first I need to invite those that would like to speak but have not signed up to please do so. That will be a requirement. And we will start this portion of the public hearing before we receive comment by turning the time over to Dr. Peterson.
Okay, you can, or I can pass the handout out. A handout's being circulated that is equivalent to what I'm showing up here on the screen, so you can kind of look at both and follow along, make notes, and so afterwards, if you have questions and that kind of thing. We just kind of wait till everyone gets a handout. The board has one. Excuse me. Okay. For 3 straight years, starting in 2009, Weaver School District received over $18 million in cuts to their budget and funding. These were permanent, ongoing cuts that would continue year after year. In response to these massive shortfalls, we did not raise class sizes, nor did we cut teachers. Instead, we cut capital programs, things that aren't associated with people or compensation. These included contracted projects, buses, building improvements, land acquisitions, and textbooks. In addition, 20% of all non-compensation items were cut. These include supplies, materials, training, travel. Professional development days were also discontinued. In an effort to restore some of these budget cuts, we are proposing a $2.5 million tax increase. The first piece of this tax increase is bus purchases, $903,000. You will recall that back in 2011, the board had a very small tax increase, $650,000 for bus purchases. The reason why I refer to this as a small increase is because at the time, it was less than $10 on the average taxpayer for the entire year. Unfortunately, the 2011 increase was not adequate. That would only purchase about 5 buses. And we have a fleet of about 182 buses, 144 of which are used every day to and from, and the others are held in reserve for activities and field trips. With only 5 new buses a year, if we were to stick with the rotation of 5 new buses, we would be replacing our buses once every 36 years. And there aren't very many families that would replace their family vehicles once every 36 years. Not only are these older buses expensive to maintain, but replacement parts in some cases are not even manufactured. In 2012, shortly after our tax increase, we did reach a crisis point on our bus fleet. And for a couple-year period, we cobbled funds from various sources to infuse more bus purchases. We have purchased more than 5 buses per year since 2011. But we need a permanent, steady stream of revenue so that we can be on a reasonable bus rotation. With this $900,000, when we combine it with the $650,000 I raised 5 years ago, we feel that we can buy up to 12 or so buses a year. This will put the district bus fleet on a much more reasonable rotation, even though it's a stretch still. It'll be a 15-year rotation. The cost of an aging fleet and keeping these older buses on the road is significant, but more important is the safety of our kids. We do not want to transport our students in buses that are potentially going to break down or be unsafe. second element of our proposed increase is textbooks and instructional resources for 1.2 million. This is the biggest piece. The last time that we had a textbook adoption was in 2008. At the time, we had an 8-year rotation when it came to adopting textbooks. This means that every 8 years, your textbook would be replaced, depending on the subject matter. We have only had one minor adoption since 2008. In the time period when we should have gone through a full rotation of adoptions, we've only been able to do one minor adoption, and that was in secondary math. Our children need up-to-date resources. These funds will go directly to the classroom to help reinforce our instructional effort. A third element of our proposed increase is $400,000 for capital improvements. In the downturn, state capital funds that we were recipients of were decimated. Weaver School District was hit hard. Since that time, we have added students and square feet. The new revenue will once again enable us to start receiving state aid. This $400,000 will cause us and result in another $838,000 in state aid. These added funds will help us reestablish proper maintenance and building improvement schedules. The cost of properly maintaining our buildings is immeasurable, but the cost of not properly maintaining our buildings is immeasurable. But more important, our children and patrons deserve a safe, usable learning environment. We also have other needs that were cut during the downturn, as I mentioned, and they're not being addressed tonight. Land acquisition, technology, restoring 20% cut to all non-compensation budgets, certain selected contracted maintenance projects, roofs, boilers, parking lots, AC upgrades, and the restoration of professional development days. In addition to the $2.5 million, we are having a small judgment levy. The internet giant Comcast was successful with the State Tax Commission in appealing their values statewide. Our piece of this appeal was $51,801. Comcast was successful on the 2011, 2012, 2013 appeals. This is a one-time tax, and it'll go away after this year. It automatically goes away. That's how the law works. Also, it's interesting to note that these monies don't go to us at all. They are passed through. They go right to Comcast. Okay? So when you add the two, our total tax increase that we're proposing and that was advertised in the newspaper is $2,555,524. Okay. There are 41 school districts in the state. Weaver School District is one of 18 districts that are eligible to receive state aid. State aid is dependent on local tax effort. Without this proposed tax increase, Weaver School District will lose $1.5 million in voted leeway state aid, and will not be eligible for the $838,000 in capital funds. The state recognizes that Weaver School District has a lot of kids. The state also recognizes that Weaver School District, compared to other districts, does not have the assessed value per kids that other districts may have. To help districts like ours, the state has set up special funding that is available to us, but they require us to participate to get this funding. And that we are required to have local effort. The legislature expects us to make effort. Historically, the Weaver Board of Education has been very mindful of the burden placed on taxpayers. With this reasonable and justifiable tax increase and state aid requirements, the board continues to be mindful of taxpayers while at the same time maximizing resources for kids. We want to benefit the kids that reside within our boundaries. Frankly, and I'll show you this in a minute, our tax rates are very low compared to other school districts. Because of our low effort, we are in jeopardy of losing state funds unless we make a greater effort. I've kind of got this chart that summarizes things. If we bill to raise taxes tonight, our voted leeway aid will drop to $6.5 million. If we pass the tax tonight, our leeway aid will be over $8 million, a difference of $1.5 million. If we fail to pass the tax tonight, we will have zero capital foundation money. If we pass the tax tonight, we'll have over 800,000 from the state on capital money. If we fail to approve the proposed tax increase, obviously there would be $0. If we approve, we will raise 2.5 million for those very targeted needs that we already talked about. When you add all these together, this is a swing of almost $5 million. So this $2.5 million tax increase really is springboarding into almost double, because that's how it's set up with state laws. Okay, let's look at the comparative tax impact. But last year, it's Roman numeral 5, or you're 4 if you're following along. Last year, our assessed value in the county, just the school district, you take out Ogden, just for Weaver School District, was $7.9 billion. And our total tax rate was 0.006643. If you had a home that was valued at $223,000, your tax last year would have been $817 a year. That's just the Weaver County portion. Some of you might be saying to yourself, mine's higher than that. That's just the Weaver School District portion, okay? Now, a good thing happened for our economy and for people, that the evaluation went up from 7.9 billion to 8.6 billion. When values go up, the state tax commission actually lowers the tax rate, because taxpayers on the whole are not to be harmed by rising values. And so they did. In June, we get what's called the certified tax rate. The state tax commission dropped our tax rate from 0.006643 to 0.006397. If the value on your house did not change, if it stayed at the same 223,000, you would have seen a decrease in your taxes had we kept with this certified rate. Your taxes would have gone down by $30. But obviously, most people's values went up because of this rise in valuation. Our proposal springboards from this figure, not last year's. So when we advertise a tax increase, it's from the certified rate. And so we are proposing a voted leeway increase, a capital outlay increase, both of which will enable us to get state aid, and a small judgment levy increase, which will go away at the end of this year, automatic. The other levies, no changes. So the total tax rate that we're proposing is 0.006693. So if you were to compare this rate to the actual rate last year, the actual change is 0.00005. If your house stayed at the same value, 223,000, with our proposed increase, your change from the prior year for Weaver School District's portion would be $6.15. But we know that's not likely for many people because your values went up. And so that's why the advertised average of $36.44. Now some of you, if your values went up faster than the average, are going to see a bigger increase. If some of you values did not go up by the average, you won't see as big of an increase. Here's the interesting thing to note that shows the dynamics of rising and lowering tax rates, because it seems that when we have truth and taxation hearings from entities that rates are always rising. The last time we raised taxes, that modest increase in 2011 for $650,000, our proposed tax rate that was approved was 0.006833. The total proposed tax rate that we are proposing this year, 0.006693, is still lower than that of 5 years ago, a change of negative 0.000140. But that just shows you our values have been increasing and rates go down. Okay? Other entities. I said earlier, Weaver School District has a low tax rate when compared with neighboring districts. There are 15 school districts along the Wasatch Front. They go from Cache and Logan at the north down to Nebo in Utah County on the south. Last year, of that Wasatch Front rank, Weaver was the 14th lowest. There was only one other district that had a lower tax rate than us, and that was Salt Lake. With this increase, we moved from 14th to 11th. And there are 6 other Wasatch Front districts that are also having tax rate increases. I calculated those in as well. Last year, to get to the average, this is just the average, we would have had to have had a tax increase of 6.2 million. This year, just to get to the average, I've taken into account the 2.5 million. And on top of the 2.5 million, we'd have to have a tax increase of 5.7 million on top of the 2.5 million to get to the average of the Wasatch Front school districts. Our rates are extremely low. Weaver School District has taken great strides to not overburden taxpayers. We are grateful for our taxpayers. They are our lifeblood. Weaver School District is very frugal and efficient, and acts like this are not taken lightly by the board. They struggle, they study, and they contemplate, and when we have a tax increase, it's for just not willy-nilly, it's for targeted purposes, because we're mindful of the burden that taxpayers share. Anyway, that's my presentation, President.
Thank you, Robert. One more announcement. If you would like to speak this evening, there is a sign-up sheet there in the back that you will have to sign in order to address the board meeting. And let's give us, if you'd like to do that right now. Okay. If not, we'll have Claire pick it up. Then we will open this truth and taxation hearing for public comment. We have a microphone to go around. You will be given 3 minutes to make your comment. You may, Claire will time you at 2.5 minutes. I'll give you a high sign so you'll have 30 seconds to conclude your thoughts and your remarks. And we'll start with Doug Edwards from Far West. Doug?
Good evening, members of Doug. Here's the microphone. I don't know if I can hold this.
Just for the record, because we're a public meeting, we have to be recorded, and so you have to have a microphone so that.
I understand. No, I'm good. Just to let you know a little bit about who I am. I'm an ex-school counselor and administrator of an alternative school in Colorado. I'm also a former council member and mayor. So I understand these kinds of things, but it boils down to one important thing, is this is a legislative issue. And I think when you're talking about raising taxes, you need to go before the entire Weaver County population to ask for this kind of raise, because it isn't just the school board that's asking for a raise. Weaver County wants one too, and this is indicative of going to the taxpayer to solve problems. I'm glad to pay my fair share, and I looked at my tax bill and let me tell you, it jumped out of my skin, but I understand that. The problem I have is that school districts in the state also have fees that they charge. And yet these are some of the things that come up here, is that these fees are supposed to cover those. I would just really encourage you to look at other ways to fund these things and take a sharper pencil, because I don't think now is the time. I think a lot of people are coming after the middle class to solve their problems, and the middle class is getting beaten down financially. I haven't had a raise. My wife hasn't had a raise, and it's very difficult. And I hope that you take into consideration that maybe you need to sit down with your legislative members and really talk to them about what your needs are and get some further help from the state, because that's who should be funding a lot of these things. Because our money goes to the state and it goes to the federal government. And then you'll all figure out how to figure out where that money's going. Instead of whenever you need to update buses and do different things, that you come back to the taxpayer. I think I would really encourage you to take a second look at this and not vote on this. Vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Michael Lawrence.
Good afternoon or evening.
Microphone, please.
Good afternoon, my name is Mike Lawrence, and the board members, I would urge you to investigate where our monies were spent in for the buses. According to the documents that were posted, clearly posted, public documents, Weaver County spent in 2011, $160,000 were allocated for school buses each year from that point on in 2011. That was an emergency request by this board. And since then, we have spent a lot of money on buses. As a matter of fact, in 2013, 2014, we spent $4-point-something million on buses, according to the documents that are publicly displayed on the webpage. I'm trying to figure out if we're supposed to be, if we allocated $680,000 or $650,000 every year since 2011, and we budgeted a certain amount of money, why aren't we just crazily spending for bus replacement? I just urge you guys to go back and look at this, at these funds. In 2015, I believe it is, there was an allocation that it makes declarations. You guys spent $617,000 and you reported to the state you didn't purchase a single bus. What's going to happen in 2011 when all these buses that are leased expire? How much is that going to cost us, the taxpayers? I urge you guys to go back and look at how monies were spent on these buses. And thank you.
Thank you. David Smith.
David Smith, West Haven. Just several concerns that I had, not to reiterate what the gentleman stated before, but we've actually been hit with several different tax increases here in Weaver County. Not to mention, as far as here recently, we passed Prop 1 for the transportation tax here in Weaver County, which on our sales tax actually put us now at the second highest county in the entire state as far as our sales tax. I would also like to point out the fact that, yes, there are fees that we pay as parents to register our students, both on the junior high and high school level. And a lot of these fees are listed as earmarks for paying for books and postage and additional items and resources there at the school level itself. So not only are we having that additional amount on top of our property taxes, I've seen, and I'm sure you can recall back several years ago when they did the tax increase during the housing crisis when the values dropped. And no sooner a year or two later, if you think of the Upper Valley, you have people's taxes that were doubling what they were paying when you go back historically over several years before that. This is where I would suggest that we need to take a look at this and a lot of the inefficiencies within the school districts itself. How oftentimes do you hear about students being bused to a school that's 8.5, 9 miles away when there's a respected school located just 3.5 miles away? There's a lot of inefficiencies happening on the county level that really need to be reviewed as far as where the boundaries are, if there's a necessity to transport students such long distances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Larry Crouch.
I wanted to come up this evening to speak. I had heard from some people saying that if the district was diligent in managing our money, that we would have to be asking for this. My response to that, I've had the opportunity to be involved with the school district as a vendor back starting in 1972. And I can tell you there isn't any district in the world. If business was as well managed as this district is, we would have as many businesses go out of business. For me, it's all about the kids. I look at the children, and I'm still in this. I worked for the Chamber of Commerce for 25 years. I had an opportunity to see both sides of this. And I can assure you that the money that you're asking for is not very much relative to what we get in return. And I know you wouldn't be asking for it if there was any other way. But I'm here to support whatever you're asking. And I can tell you that the amount of money, even if it's a $1 million home, it's going to be much less than I think people are spending for recreation. And if I had to choose between my children, my grandchildren, or your children, and recreation, that money would go towards your children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Jim Johnson.
I'll use this. Normally I wouldn't. I was raised by a bunch of lawyers, so and spent 35 years in the retail business, so I have developed a rather loud voice. The thing is that is what we have done here, and I asked, what is our funded liability on our teachers and employees' pensions? That's one of the big things that's coming up in the news these days. Do you have that number?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but they made us take an account for that liability, and it is significant, it's large. And we keep track of that on our government-wide financial.
Is it going up or going down?
It's going down, actually, because.
Well, okay, because Illinois is only $111 billion in the hole.
Yeah.
And so the thing is here, this is an expense I didn't see listed here. Now, the thing is, the board passed this resolution or whatever you want to call that thing because of the teacher shortage. Now, I have a degree out of the University of Nebraska in business organization economics. And now, in 68 years in the business, and now I'm eligible to become a teacher. Now, how did we ever get to the thing? We have turned the teaching profession into a very high stress, very low pay occupation. So the thing is what we need to do is change the delivery system and go from a grade to a competency level. Jeff has had this lecture before, but I want to bring the board, and I want the board to encourage the state board to investigate a different system, more efficient and low cost, and we can raise the teachers' beginning salaries to $50,000 and through this system and actually save money. And I'd be glad to go into more detail with the board at some future time. And if you want to come down, I'll buy you a dinner down at the country club some night, and we'll really hash it out.
I don't think public law will allow us to do that. But we appreciate the offer. Okay, Mr. Payne? Oh, I'm sorry.
You can speak for yourself. I've never turned down a free dinner, so I'll meet you there. So I'm kind of biased. I'm Chad Tenney from Hooper, Utah, and I'm biased because I have 5 kids. They have to go through Weaver School District. I'm also biased because my parents were educators. But on the other side, I'm biased because I'm a small business owner, and I understand how you have to be responsible for every investment you make, and you have to look at every return on investment and see if it's worth your time and effort and energies. And I think from a parent standpoint, and hopefully those 2 biases kind of make it a wash, but as a parent and seeing what's been proposed today and the numbers, I can't imagine not taking advantage of it. I can't imagine not taking advantage of the matching funds as you would in a 401k. And that, to me, that's irresponsible, okay, to not do that. Is it going to be a sacrifice in all of us? Yes, it is. But is it worth it? You're going to get a return on investment? Absolutely. So do I like taxation? Absolutely not, okay? There's times when I don't get a paycheck, being the owner of a small business. So I understand the sacrifice at times, but I just think that it would be irresponsible not to pass this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lindy Bess.
Hello, I am also a small business owner in Weber County and a strong advocate of the schools. I'm involved with lots of schools. I love the schools. I also have 6 children and they all go to public schools in all different high school down to elementary. I am in favor of the modest tax increase for many reasons, but I sell real estate for a living. On a $200,000 home, they would actually pay less than $3 a month for this tax increase. In all of the homes I sell and all the homes I've sold over the years, I don't think that would be a deterrent in any way in home ownership. Also, I do believe, and there's studies to back this up, that there's a direct correlation between education and a standard of living. With improved standard of living, you also have less crime. So I'm very much for the children, and also I'm grateful to be part of this district. I mean, to know that we're 14th out of 15th and we still run and have the opportunities that my kids have, I'm extremely grateful for that. So I am in favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a kid.
Good evening. I'm Jessie Kidd. I am first and foremost a resident of Weber County, a mom to 4 children. One who just graduated the great school of Weber High. Any Warriors in the house? Mom's going to be a little sad in a week when she's off to Utah State. I'll need some emotional support then. I'm here because I represent a charter school that opened up last year. It's Greenwood Charter School. It's brand new. It's in Harrisville. And about half of our students come from Weber District. And we know that last year there were some legislative changes to make that funding stream more transparent. In fact, charter schools will be listed next year on that on our property tax statement. And I'm here because we are partners in education. It is incredibly complicated to educate these beautiful students, and it's not something that's done without resources. And I'm very grateful that as a school board, you're taking the initiative to match these funds to do more for our kids. I have a little one that's starting kindergarten next week at Green Acres. And that bus is incredibly important to his education. So emotionally, it is incredibly helpful for me to know that as a board, you're thinking about my son and that you're also thinking about the students that I serve at Greenwood Charter School. So thank you. I am in support of this tax increase.
Thank you. Vicki, comment?
I thought that piece of paper was to send info.
Oh.
But that's
You-
okay.
you-
I'll
you don't
just-
have to speak if you don't want to.
I'm here, so I'll just give you a quick, so we live up in the valley. And, single income home, 2 kids, very conservative. We've been in this home for over 25 years. And, we would have more kids, but, we do what we can with what we have, so stopped at 2. But anyway, so this is my tax thing, you know how you said it's gonna go low and stuff like this. So when they assessed this from last year to this year, it's gone over 100. I let my bosses tell me. But anyways, it was the value that.
They're just readers, so don't worry.
Yeah.
I lost my real ones at Lagoon Monday, so it goes out the door.
Okay, last year was valued at 286,000, and this year it went up to 338,000.
The value.
Yeah, so I kind of think, they assess this. They think that the valley, now that it's kind of like recreational and all this kind of good stuff, and that rich people are up there. This is like the new Park City, and it's not true. It's not. I mean, we work hard for our money, single income. The kids are trying to put their own selves through, Weber State. Both my kids gone to Weber High. We don't use the bus system that much because after, the we started going over the paths, it was like, it's, you know, got in a little used car. So, you know, anyways, not to get into too much, but I kind of think you guys are, they over assessing this. So,
Please, just for the record, we do not set property values.
right, so what I'm trying to say, if they're assessing the property value so high, that way we gotta pay you guys more.
You,
Kind of see
there
what I
is
mean? So-
an appeal process with your taxes,
So,
particularly when it's that high.
so,
Right at the bottom, it's an audit, you can.
right, but last year we put, we paid $773 to, Weaver School District. And this year they're assessing it at $873. So it's gone up more than what,
Yeah, that's because your value was so high.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys are doing this, they're assessing it, that way you guys get more money, I feel. Everything's gone up, and my property price has gone over $333 for this year. And it's not gonna make any difference to fight it, because I tried fighting last year, and it don't work, because you guys are confused, I feel. And you think,
No,
well, that,
please understand,
Uh-huh.
we have nothing to do with
I know, but
this.
when I'm saying
Not
you
even
guys,
arguing with
I'm saying you guys, I'm saying, this is you guys, and this is the assessors, and you guys are
No,
going like
we all
this.
have homes, we do the same thing.
Well,
I'm-
anyway, so I don't mind you guys going up a little bit on the taxes. I kind of think you're going too high. You know, I'd say a little bit here, or what he's saying that we should go up. But man, they're just taxing us out of our house and home up there. And I know it's not you guys, but it's all you guys, because
You voted for
we've been
those
up there for 30 years. We can't, you know, we're just barely making it. You got a raise in 5 years. Even when he does get a raise, it's only 2%, and then you guys want to jack it up this much, so.
Maybe after this meeting, I'd love you to visit with Dr. Peterson, just let him give you a suggestion or two in terms of appealing that value.
Well, I tried appealing it last year, and the 4 guys were just all around the table while I was there going, okay, you know, this is what I have, and I showed them something from, you know, what the homes are going for.
All right, thank you very much.
Say, wrap it up, wrap it up.
Okay, Jody Vaughn.
You know, on the path, do they come in late? I apologize.
Oh.
They don't come in late, it's my fault.
Okay, Brad D, I recognize that name.
Well, if the representative's coming in late, then maybe I shouldn't speak either, but I never passed the opportunity. I don't need a microphone, I don't need that. Let me just say,
We got a record, you guys passed that law.
Okay. I want a reminder of what I've been doing, so.
But I know most of you, and I think most of you know me. And you know that I've had some experience in making tough decisions in the last several years. And I understand that sometimes we get in a position where we're so concerned about people liking us that we sometimes don't evaluate where we need to be on the right decisions at the right time for the right purpose. So I just came tonight to listen to a little bit, and I want to say thank you. And I know this, I look at my taxes, and contrary to several here, I don't have any children in Weaver County schools right now, none. But I have 5 successful children, and they all came from Weaver County Public School. I've got some grandkids in the school right now that I hope follow in their parents' footsteps. But I want to say thank you for putting their concerns about yours sometimes, because I know on that side of the table, you want to be liked, and you want to do what people want you to do. And controversial things are tough decisions to make. But hold the ground and make the right decisions for those kids, because this is their future. This is your children and your children's children. This is their future. And education should be the #1 thing in Utah right now. I believe that for all the time I served in the legislature. I believe that for all the time I've been in politics. And you're doing the right thing by holding the line and standing up for those kids rather than being too concerned about what somebody may say or somebody may do in your political lives. So thanks for what you did.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. That is the end of our list. We appreciate everyone that has spoken this evening. We've had some for, some against, all good information. Those of you that have had specific concerns about the district, I do invite you to get involved, because some of the things that you have addressed, we've been addressing for several years. And there may be some details that you have missed, or that are not available without digging a little deeper or coming into the district and taking a look. But sincerely appreciate each and every one of you taking your time this evening to come and express yourself to us. So with that having been said, we will close the public hearing. Or do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second by Janice. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now we have on the table the action item of approving the proposed 2016-2017 tax rate, which is in fact what we've been talking about tonight, the rate that Dr. Peterson has presented to us. Board, do I have a motion?
Before I actually make the motion, just a couple of comments.
Please.
To say thank you for everybody for your comments and appreciate input from the public, because that's who we represent, the taxpayers, the public, and that's why we're here representing you. So appreciate all of your input. Now, just my background is in finance, and I'm a CPA, so I understand all of your concerns with regard to expenses and efficiencies. I'm on the audit committee, so we talk about audits and internal audits and efficiencies. So that's the number one priority for me. I was a taxpayer before I was on the board, and I'll be a taxpayer long after I'm off the board. So I get that. I understand that for sure. Because I have kids, the married kids, that are struggling with costs and those kinds of things right in the middle of that. So having said that, our number one priority on the board is education of children by quality education. That should be our top priority, just how it benefits society in general. So having said that, just a quick comment I think needs to be addressed. The legislature has done a great thing for us to have this opportunity for matching funds. They recognize the uniqueness of the Weaver School District, where we're kind of just the residential area of the county, and so our assessed valuation is lower than others. There's 41 districts in the state. So they have recognized that, and I appreciate them for what they've done. And so, but they're saying to us, we need to do our share. We need to help share the load in what's right. So we appreciate the opportunity for them to let us do that. And so we would be derelict in our responsibility and our stewardship if we did not do this and did not receive those matching funds the legislature set out, because the other districts are doing that. We're competing with other districts for quality education to do our best. So having said that, I would like to make a motion that we approve this tax increase.
Any second? Second? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Rick?
Well, I'd like to just express appreciation to all of you who made comments tonight. This is how we know how you feel. As I see it, we need to raise the taxes now because we have not done this for a long time. We've been possibly more conservative than we could have been. And so at some point, we have to bring it up to date. And I feel like that's what we're proposing.
So we have a motion on the table. It has been seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Again, thank each and every one of you for being here this evening and expressing your concerns, your feelings. You are welcome to stay or leave. The rest of the meeting probably won't be this exciting. So moving on to our We'll hold here for a minute. We now have a land transaction to come before the board, and we'll turn the time over to Scott Zelmer.
Okay, President Richardson, Dr. Stevens Board. Jeff Hales, our district realtor, has received a cash offer from EK Bailey Construction in the amount of $943,250 for the old Walquist property. It's located approximately 1,000 north, 1,200 west, and far west. Property is approximately 17.15 acres. There are two separate lots that are not included in this offer that are adjacent to that, kind of on the corner, 1,100 north and 1,200 west. Those are not included in this sale. The Capital Improvement Committee met July 1st of 2016, and they recommended the board that you accept this offer.
Do I have a motion to accept the offer? I'll move. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, we now have looked at a proposed study team, and I'll turn the time over to Art Hanson.
President Richardson, Board, Dr. Stevens, thank you for your time. As you're aware, out in the western end of the county, our building capacities are stretched really thin. We've got student growth. For example, Fremont High School built with a permanent capacity of 1,750 students. And this year we'll be pushing 2,050 students, which has necessitated 11 portable classrooms out there. We would like to propose at this time and get permission from the board to open up a boundary study team, a team which would consist of parents and educators to try to look at possible solutions, which would probably include some boundary shifts that would take some students to Weber High, maybe some to Roy High. We don't know what the answer is at this time, but we'd like to get some parents and educators together and look at some possibilities that we can take to you down the road as a possible boundary shift.
Board, any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the creation of a boundary study team? Janice? Doug, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have need of a closed session, and we will be discussing purchase or exchange or lease or sale of real property. So under Utah code, that is a closed meeting item. Robert, do you need a roll call vote? Do I have a motion to move to closed session? Rick, move. Mitzi, second. All in favor by roll call?
Mitzi Karaguchi, Janice Christensen, Rick Favero, Doug Hurst, John Ritchie, and Brent Richardson.
Aye. Before we close the open session, as far as we need to excuse Dean Osborne this evening, I apologize for that. He is vacationing, which we all should have been. But anyway, we'd like to excuse him, and we will now go into close session, and we thank every one of you for being here this evening.
You get buses.
Grant, good work. I got registration in the morning, but I'll be around. Yeah. Can you do?